What's going on, folks? I'm Renegade. Now, I want to pose a question to you, and really think about this when I ask. A year ago, so last August, if you had woken up in the morning and you had a fever and you had a sore throat and you just felt really achy and crummy and lousy, what would you have done? What would be your course of action? I know what I would have done. And probably a lot of you would have too. You would have called out of work. You would have stayed in bed, drank lots of fluids, eat your chicken noodle soup, or if you're like me, you get the magic wonton soup because that stuff cures all. Well, not all, but yeah. And you would have monitored your symptoms and hoped to get better. Maybe taking some aspirin to break the fever. Now, what would you do today? If you woke up today and you had a fever, a sore throat, crummy, achy feeling, and just felt sick, what would you do? Now, I pose this question because I've asked a lot of people. And a lot of people say, obviously, they'd call the doctor. They'd go to the hospital. Now, my question is that necessary? Now, before I get too far and the trolls start hating on me, because obviously I am bad-mouthing the hell out of anybody who thinks anything about anything and whatever. Oh yeah, trolls are going to love me on this one. I foresee everything from driving with my fingers bandaged up to whatever. I don't care what the trolls think. I do understand the significance of what we're going through right now. And I do feel for anybody who has had to deal with the worst effect of what we're going through right now. Obviously, I'm talking about coronavirus. Well, I'm specifically talking about COVID-19 because, as we well know, unless you don't know, coronavirus is an umbrella term for a lot of different viruses. The influenza, rhinovirus, aka the common cold, they're in this umbrella term too. So I'm talking specifically about COVID-19. COVID-19 has taken a lot of lives in the course of the last, what are we now? What is time? The last several months, COVID-19 has taken a lot of lives. And this is not something I'm going to try and argue or dispute, like that is a fact. But I honestly believe, and I will argue tooth and nail, that media has failed us. Yes, I know, ironic. Media, I'm talking to you on YouTube, a social media platform. Duh. Now, when I say media, I mean mass media. Although social media certainly doesn't help anything because, well, these days, that's where people get their news. The reason I wanted to make this video was actually because earlier in the week, I overheard a conversation with somebody. They were talking about how their poor nephew has contracted COVID-19. He tested positive. Now, the woman continued to go on about how much of a tragedy this was and how bad she feels about everything and how she's so worried. But by her own words, she says that beyond contracting COVID-19, he is a perfectly healthy 25-year-old. I want to stop and repeat that. perfectly healthy 25-year-old. Now, unless there's something else that she didn't mention that he has a problem with, you know, perfectly healthy means perfectly healthy. And to me, this really points out the fact that not enough people are understanding what this virus actually is. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I don't even play a doctor on TV. Or on the internet, for that matter. What I do have is a basic knowledge of looking for facts. So let's break it down. This woman is talking about COVID-19 being an absolute death note. She is guaranteeing that her nephew is going to die because he tested positive for COVID-19. That's it, he's dead. Start the funeral. Now, yes, COVID-19 can be very dangerous. I know. Chill. We'll get to that in a minute. I went on Google earlier, and as of today, when I'm recording this, the numbers in the United States are that 162,000 people have died because of COVID-19. That's a lot of people. I'm not denying that. That's a lot of people. 162,000 people. I'd like to, however, point out the other number that is being listed in all the media reports. Because, I mean, let's face it, you can't avoid COVID at this point. Like, it is on every news outlet possible. Top story, COVID-19. We have 162,000 deaths. Truly tragic for anybody who has had somebody in their life who they care about who has contracted it, who has dealt with severe to fatal issues. In the United States of America, we have, as of today, 1.28, or is it 26, confirmed cases of COVID-19. Over 5 million cases. That's a lot of cases. And 162,000 people dead, that's a lot of death. Now, you always see these numbers. They're going up on social media all the time. All you gotta do is punch in coronavirus or COVID-19 into Google, you get these numbers. You see them on every news outlet possible. Fox News, ABC, CBS, CNN, NBS, or NBCSN, all your alphabet, basically. But nobody that I have seen takes the time to go the extra little step using basic mathematics. If you have 5 million, 5.28 or 26, whatever it is, million deaths to 162,000 deaths, let's do the math on that real fast. If you divide the smaller number by the bigger number, and you move the decimal point 2 places over to the left, you get the percentage of death. This is the percentage of fatality in COVID-19 cases. Look at that number for a second. Yes, some is always more than none. But for a virus that every news outlet will have you thinking it is deadly as hell, this will kill you. If you contract it, it will kill you. That's an awfully small percentage, isn't it? You know, it's funny because numbers are scary, but not knowing what those numbers mean or how they relate, that's even scarier. So, do I think this virus is dangerous? Absolutely. And it can be very dangerous for people who have compromised immune systems, whether that be from an ailment, some sort of sickness, some sort of treatment. When I had my surgery, I knew that because my body is now going to be trying to heal itself, that my immune system will be slightly compromised because of it. White blood cells are busy doing other things. Even the elderly, obviously, because they have a naturally weakened immune system because their body is essentially deteriorating. So it is still dangerous, but for news outlets to be talking about, how deadly it is, like, guys, you're kind of like making a mountain out of an anthill when you look at the percentages. And now I can hear all the keyboard warriors looking at the video, getting ready to type down in the comments section that I'm an asshole and that 160,000 people is a lot of people. Again, I'm not disagreeing. Any is more than none. But also remember that when you do the math, you realize that if you become one of the, I'm sure very soon to be, 5.3 million confirmed cases, that you only have a very small chance of it actually being fatal. A lot of the problem that we're seeing with, the overworked hospitals and everything is because so many people panic so much and go to the hospital. For a lot of people, COVID-19, a lot of people with healthy immune systems, I should say, COVID-19 is basically going to be a respiratory flu. You'll have a fever, you'll have a sore throat, you will have crappy feeling, you'll be sick. Yeah, obviously. But, it's not necessarily a reason to go into full-on panic mode. Reason for concern? Absolutely. Reason to self-quarantine, self-isolate, to keep from spreading it to other people? Absolutely. Because you might not know what somebody else's health condition is. And we don't want to be killing people off. But for the entire country to do it, and this is another thing I see on the internet all the time. People talking about fighting back and forth about, should schools reopen? Should businesses reopen? No, nobody should open. We should be, everybody stay inside, shelter at home, don't go outside, no interaction of the people. Well, guys, if we do that, what happens to our economy? Let's stop and think about this. I, like many of you, need to work in order to make money, to pay bills. Children need to go to school to get an education. Sure, we can do homeschooling via Zoom or whatever it is they're doing, I don't really know because I haven't researched all that, but I know it's education from home through the school, not quite homeschooling. There's parts of society that we need to have. And we can't, like right now, think about your bank account. How much money do you have in your bank account? Don't actually tell me in the comments or anything, but do you feel that you have enough money to live and be able to pay all your bills and be able to supply food for an unknown length of time should we all shut down? If you can't go to work, how are you supposed to be paying your bills? Right now, states are going into massive debt trying to pay unemployment because there's so many people who've been laid off because of this stuff. And for anybody that's going to sit there and say, well, didn't you see that they're going to extend and prevent within legal limitations evictions, yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but at the end of this, I'm still expecting everybody to say, I want my money. You owe me 5 months mortgage, pay up. This is a very scary situation for our country. And I'm not looking at it so much as because of the virus, I'm looking at it because of the fallout from the virus. It's scary. It really is. Are we really going to shut everything down, destroy our economy for such a small chance of fatality, rather than looking at it wisely? If you're at risk, take extra precaution. If you know somebody who's at risk and you interact with them on a regular basis, take precaution. If you feel that you are worried and you want to take precaution, that's great. But at this point, we're doing more harm than good by forcing everybody to take precautions. I'm not talking about a mask, I'm talking about stay at home. We're shutting everything down. I hate when the battery dies during recording. So annoying. Where was I? Oh yeah. I honestly believe that if you do not feel like you're at a risk, you shouldn't be forced not to work. Right now, we are dealing with people being forced not to work. And yes, I know, the government is giving unemployment more money. I also think it's a little unfair that now we've got people that are choosing to stay at home because they're making more money staying at home because the government is paying them extra than they would be if they were working. I mean, I worked a job where I was busting my ass every day, and I was taking home $1,200 every 2 weeks. Now, there are people getting $1,200 every 2 weeks, you know, $600 a week. Well, I guess now it's dropped, so now it's $800. Okay, on top of their normal unemployment. And they're not doing anything. They're just sitting at home. There's a lot of flaws in everything that's going on. One last thing I want to touch on before I end this video is people's understanding of the situation and pointing fingers. Right now, President Trump is the #1 person that people are pointing fingers at. As if the virus's exposure and outbreak in our country is entirely his fault. Well, he could have prevented this. Not really. See, here's the problem with a virus. Viruses spread very easily. And it's not just the mask. Yes, the masks help, but think about everything you touch. There is no way to really stop a virus, save for an entire countrywide shutdown. Zero interaction whatsoever for however long the virus takes to incubate and manifest. Honestly, there isn't much that Trump could have done. Now keep in mind, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm also not anti-Trump. I'm just kind of like, eh. I don't like the man as a person. He's a sleazeball. Let's be real. But in terms of how he's handling the coronavirus, trust me, it could have been done a hell of a lot worse. But because people don't understand how things work, and because they want to assign blame for something that they're fearing, they're pointing the finger at the obvious person. So guys, please, when going about your daily business, remember, it's not as bad as the media wants you to think it is. The media wants you to think it's so bad so that you tune in, so that they get the views. It's all about the numbers. You're going to pay attention to millions of people are dying versus a lot of people are getting sick and a few are dying. So, you know, it's the obvious thing. What I'm saying basically comes down to take a look at what is actually going on. Don't just buy into the media, and don't buy into social media. You know, there's a lot of people right now that are blowing up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the whole 9 yards, blowing up Trump, blowing up all the corona stuff, talking about how if you get it, you are dead. Chill. Stop adding to the panic. Let's figure out what's actually going on. Let's try and figure things out the smart way, the logical way, the realistic way. Basically, guys, think. Take everything with a grain of salt. Do a little bit of fact checking and see where things actually are. Because it doesn't take much to realize that although the coronavirus is deadly by very definition, it is not as deadly as a lot of people want us all to think. Interesting fact, look at Google. I'll put it up on the screen. Look at this diagram. There's nothing about people that have recovered from COVID-19. Why is that? We know that it exists. Don't sit there and tell me that it's because nobody has. I mean, shit. Tom Hanks famously did. Of course, he talked about how, you know, he and his wife were sick for a while because they had it, and then they got better, and then you stopped hearing about them. Like, you didn't hear anything more about Tom Hanks dealing with coronavirus. It's like, oh shit, he's healed, he's better. Let's just ignore him. Look at this sick person instead. Views, my friends. It's all about the views. It's all about the numbers. Numbers equal dollar signs. Dollar signs is what our world is around, because it's all about making money. We're all a greedy bunch of pain in the ass society. Anywho, I'm going to stop before I get myself on too much of a rant. If you guys have any comments or questions, please leave them down in the comment section. As always, thank you all for watching. I hope you guys have a good one. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, hit the like button. And remember, keep calm, at least a little bit. Do a little research. Don't buy into the panic. Until next time, guys, y'all keep rocking and rolling. I'm gonna keep taking care of business. I'll see you in the next one.